I counted 7 deadly sins of D&D combat people keep committing at the table that can quickly ruin the game for everyone. So, today we're gonna explore all 7 of them and I will help you guys fix them. And to make it more fun, we will take a classic combat encounter where all these mistakes happen and fix them one by one. The encounter we're going to be looking at is a traditional 4-players party fighting the big bad of the campaign, Maravel the Old, a powerful necromancer at the top of his tower. For sin number 1, tell me if this sounds familiar. One of the players plays a wizard, and it's their turn. The DM looks at them and asks, "Okay, what do you do?" The player picks up their character sheet, reads through their options, asks how far away the cultist they want to attack is. They take a moment to do some math, out loud of course. That makes them change their mind, so they open up the player's handbook. And while they do all of this, the other players have all started scrolling Instagram. Sin number 1 is the 20-minute turn. I don't think that player is a lost cause, by the way, but they only started thinking about their turn the moment it actually started, which tends to slow down the pacing of the game a lot. The fixes I suggest you actually try are: number 1, the on-deck rule. It's for DMs. At the start of a turn, they announce who's up next, which allows the next player to get ready. Just a little reminder. You know. The second is batch your rolls. This is both for DMs and players. I mean, roll for attack and damage at the same time. You won't see a lot of difference with just one roll, but it compounds. These will already fix this specific issue most of the time. But if your fights are not structured correctly, making a boring turn faster might just get you to overall boredom sooner, which takes us to sin number 2. Imagine this: the DM and players have both been practicing the tips I just gave you, and the ranger's turn against our big bad comes up. The player goes, "Okay, I move to the target. I attack. I hit. Okay, that's 11 damage. The fight keeps going. Second round comes up, and that same player does the same attack. Third round, same thing, and it just keeps going. And I feel like this is the cause behind most boring D&D fights. Every single turn is the exact same one. So sin number 2 is the autopilot turn. Now, quick disclaimer, maybe you have one option that's just always extremely effective, and you want to keep using that. I'm not saying this is the problem. I think there is more than one way to introduce variety, and both the DM and the players can try to fix it in different ways. For the DM, it's all about creating dynamics in the fight. A very efficient way to do this is to add elements to the fight players can interact with. For example, levers, narrow bridges, a hostage, or some ritual unfolding with a clock that makes things worse every round. Adding this dynamic element makes the players think about the fight more and transforms it into some kind of puzzle. For players, maybe you still need to cast Eldritch Blast all the time because it's just so cool and powerful. It's alright, but maybe try to add short descriptions that slightly change every round. Maybe first round focus on sound, second round on how it makes your character feel, and third round on how the target reacts when hit. Don't make it too long. Pacing is important, but those short narrative descriptions can really help keep people engaged. By the way, you know which fight is hard? The one against the algorithm. So if you're enjoying this video, please hit like and consider subscribing to help it reach the tables that need it. Okay, sin number 3. At this point, the fight has been going on for a while. The party's fighting the wizard's head minion, and at this point they've already kinda won. The characters still have lots of resources, and maybe the DM underpowered the opponents a bit, so they never hit the players. But the minion dude still has over 40 hit points left. So everyone just keeps rolling and the fight goes on and on and on, with no added pressure, which is not that exciting. So, sin number 3 is the zombie fight. It happens when the outcome of a fight has pretty much been decided, but it just keeps running forever because nobody wants to admit it. I'm not pointing fingers here. Maybe the DM didn't balance the encounter correctly, yes, but maybe they just rolled terribly, or the players are very lucky. Many things can lead to a fight dragging on, but we can fix this. There are 2 ideas you can try. The first is just decide the next hit kills the monster, even if they still have a bit of HP left. I think Sly Flourish gives this tip too. Just make sure to describe the monster as being blooded so the players don't find it weird when a dude that was perfectly fine a second ago suddenly drops dead after someone rolled a 2 for damage. And the second one is, don't forget that monsters and people can flee or surrender. You can do this and then switch to a chase or roleplay sequence. The point is, you try to extract the players from, okay, so now we're just rolling forever mode. But even a dynamic, quick fight can still feel bad if it's not in the right place. And just before we move to sin number 4, I need to talk to you about the sponsor of today's video. Have you ever had an idea for a character in a role-playing game and realized that the system didn't have the perfect option that would make your concept work? Realm of Basolin allows you to make or tweak basically anything you want, quickly and easily. It is a TTRPG that focuses on 3 goals: speedy combat and interactions, which will be even faster if you use the tips in this video, of course, easy customization, and complete freedom in character creation. The entire system is built to allow you to create with maximum flexibility while removing as much friction as possible, because all skills and abilities are modular by design, and you can give them to any character thanks to the character passive system they came up with. The game is very easy to run, and you can explore many different directions, like giving a monster a class, for example. It contains over 50 classes, 20 ancestries, 200 spells, as well as 140 monsters to play with. So if you're interested, just check out the link in the description. Sin number 4. Imagine this. The wizard fled, and the party decided to chase them. They kick open a door, and the DM goes, okay, so you enter a 30 by 30 stone room. The wizard is there with 4 new cultists. Please roll initiative. Let's pretend the actual enemy lineup makes sense here. That's not what I'm trying to show you. The important bit is, where's that fight happening? There are no covers, no items, nothing to describe, so you end up with just 2 rows going at it. Sin number 4 is the empty room. I'm not talking about minis or beautiful animated maps here. I think a lot of DMs spend a lot of time on story, making sure the mechanics are balanced, and location is just way down their list of priorities. But because D&D relies a lot on imagination, even if you do use minis or a fancy VTT, if the place in which the encounter happens is too boring, the fights all start to feel the same. So the fix is, you need to start thinking about the fights as scenes and frame these scenes. To do this, you can work on cosmetics, which would be our set design, and narration, the narrative objectives and reasons behind the fight. For the cosmetics, stop giving measurements when you describe, and replace them with evocative sentences. You will use the grid later if you want, but you need the players to feel the mood before they think about the range of their spells. Use 1 visual, 1 audible, and 1 atmospheric element. In our example, a 30 by 30 stone room could become a dark library covered in old books, some of them flying around. You hear magic crackle in the air and can't help to feel a deep sense of dread assaulting your senses. You know, something like that. And then you make the players understand that there is a goal that goes beyond just kill the dude. Maybe you can see glyphs on the walls, slowly filling up with a red glow every time the wizard moves on a set of symbols on the floor. And who knows what happens if they reach their maximum level. Maybe players can now try to occupy the space where those symbols are, and the fight becomes more tactical as a result. Bonus tip, play with verticality, obstacles, and hazards too. So many people enjoyed pushing people down cliffs in Baldur's Gate 3, me included. So, maybe just steal that idea. And now let's move to sin number 5. Say you fixed that last 4th mistake and made the room very cool. The wizard is there, they're flying and teleporting around, touching those magical symbols and casting spells at the party. Music is ready, you're excited. This guy is responsible for famine, wars, and even the existence of Monday mornings. So it's gonna be epic. But when you redesign that scene, you kind of forgot to add the minions. The dude is just standing there by himself. Everyone rolls initiative, the party goes first, and because they're so mad at this guy, they just lash out, and after a single round, the big bad drops dead. Sin number 5 is the lonely boss, and it's just a byproduct of a poor understanding of the action economy. It's just maths, really. Even if your boss is powerful, if it does not have enough minions or their actions to support them, they will quickly get overwhelmed by a party of 4 or 5 players. To avoid this, stop thinking about a boss as a big monster, and instead, treat it as a complete encounter. Don't underestimate minions, but also have the environment do stuff. Maybe spectral hands can start attacking players whenever they cast a spell. Maybe waves of reinforcements can arrive, or the boss can transform at a certain HP threshold to activate phase 2 with different mechanics. There are many things you could try, just don't let that poor villain all by themselves. But even if you fix this, a fight can still completely fall apart at the worst moment. By the way, the tips in this video will help you run more exciting fights, but they won't solve every single DMing issue you may have. So if you want a quick way to become a better DM fast, you can support me on Patreon, where I make resources like the DMing workbook, for example, which is a set of fun exercises you can practice at home in between sessions to improve in every important area of DMing. I will just leave a link in the description. But now let's go back to sin number 6. Our example DM fixed every mistake we mentioned so far, and the resulting fight is fun, but brutal, and one of the players drops down to only 6 hit points. So they turn to the cleric's player and asks them for healing. And the answer of the cleric's player is, nah, I'll just wait until you go down. And the problem is, that might be the right answer, because using an action or bonus action to heal someone means you can't attack, and optimizing damage output is often how you win. Quick disclaimer, this got better with 5.5 as healing spells got buffed, but I believe sin number 6 is still whack-a-mole healing. Why am I saying it's bad if that's how the game works best from a mechanical standpoint then? Well, this is a personal take, and it may not work for every single table out there. But what I like most about D&D and TTRPGs in general is the narrative aspects, the story. And the problem is, if characters see their friends covered in blood and they have the ability to make them feel better, and instead they go, nah, I'll just wait until they have about 18 seconds to live, which is the amount of time people need to fail 3 death saves, by the way, I just think it's weird, Again, it's very personal, maybe you don't care about this stuff, and if so, please feel free to completely ignore me. There is no 100% perfect way to fix this, and it will require you to talk about it with your entire table if that's something you agree sucks. And then it's a blend of homebrewing and taking it into account. At my table, I want everyone to have fun, and part of the fun is we believe in the story. So as the DM, if I see a player spend resources to heal a friend who's in bad shape, maybe I don't punish them for it immediately, and instead I let them do that by focusing fire on someone else. Again, very personal preference, but it works. Another thing you could do is maybe dropping to 0 HP costs something, even when you get healed. Like you take an exhaustion level, or you lose 5 to your maximum HP count until you finish a long rest. Just make sure everyone is on the same page if you want to try those. This is all well and good, but it won't save you from the 7th deadly sin of D&D combat. And for this, let's go back in time. The party just entered the wizard's tower. In that first room, they found and fought a few animated objects. It was an easy but fun fight, but it wasn't supposed to be. The reason it was so easy, and also fun, is that as soon as the fight started, the players went wild on everything standing in their way, and they used all their best abilities, which basically nuked every single monster. And then one of the players went, okay, cool, now we barricade the door and take a long rest. And the next day, they do that again. And basically every time they fight, they forget about resources, nuke everything, long rest, and move on. Sin number 7 is the 5-minute adventuring day. It's not technically against the rules. I mean, it's a TTRPG, so you can do whatever you want, right? It happens when there's no clock running. In old school D&D, you had to look for your rations and for torches burning down, and there were wandering monsters all the time. And you can still do that, but many tables have dropped most of those things. And the problem is, if you run a more narrative game and you do that, you end up with a game where resources are paid for in time and no time pressure. Meaning those resources are now essentially free, and the balance of the game completely goes out the window as a result. So to avoid this, you need to find a way to put time back into your world, and to create clocks. Maybe there is a ritual that completes in 3 days, or maybe someone will get executed at sundown. You can totally use narrative elements here. You're not trying to win against the players by making it impossible to use their kit, but to align the mechanical design of the game, the point where it's most fun for everyone, with the story you're all creating together. If you're the DM, once you've done that, you need to start thinking in adventuring days versus individual fights, and start creating a culture at your table where players learn to think like that too. I think all of these sins, and I hope you can forgive me for the slightly strong word here, but I wanted to get my point across. All of these are pretty much different versions of the same master problem. D&D is a game where you tell a story and use rules to do so, and because of this, we have friction points where those two things clash from time to time. If you're too slow to take your turn, you're delaying the progression of the story. If you fight in empty rooms, the story has a hard time becoming memorable, etc. I'm not saying the narrative aspects of the game have to be your favorite elements. Rolling dice is cool, but because this is not a video game and still relies a lot on the imagination of people around the table, if you completely neglect story, the mechanical aspects of the game you love can start becoming boring. Make sure your fights have stakes, some kind of time pressure, and that everyone around the table is aligned on what you're all expecting to get out of combat. This will make it much more exciting for everyone at your table. But now that you know how to make combat fun, what about the rest of the game? How do you make sure the roleplay is at the same level? Well, click on this video next where I show you the 7 deadly sins of D&D roleplay to make sure it is.